The USA women's basketball team is dominating the competition, fueled by our local Aces stars. And on the men's side, all the troubling talk of the NBA becoming more international, all of a sudden, it doesn't seem so worrisome. Coming up on Sin City Beat, we're breaking down everything basketball over in Paris. Let's do this thing. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
Hello and welcome to Sin City Beat. I'm Mike Davis. Thanks for hanging out with us. Sin City Beat is the show that dissects the Vegas sports world through the eyes of the sports reporters and storytellers leading the charge. Now, on today's show, we're taking you overseas to Paris for the Summer Games as we take a closer look at all that basketball action. Joining me on the panel today, we have Case Kiefer, assistant sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun. Swoosh right there. Our very own Vince Sapienza, sports reporter and anchor with Fox 5 Las Vegas, and Jack Williams, sports reporter with the Las Vegas Sun. Great to have you guys with us. So let's dive right in and begin with the men's USA basketball squad. Undefeated and heavy favorites to win their 5th consecutive gold medal. They frankly look like an all-star squad playing against regular teams. So Vince, let me start with you. What's your biggest takeaway from this team so far, and what's your outlook for them for the remaining games?
Well, no one was more worried about the U.S. men's basketball team than Case Kiefer during the preliminary tournament when they had camp here in Las Vegas, when they were going through their round robin of qualifying. Little hits and misses here, some tight wins, but victories nonetheless. Look, I was never worried from the outset. I knew it was going to be dominant from the get-go. That's exactly what we've seen start to finish. If it was ever close, it was in the first 5 minutes. The depth continues to flex its muscle for the U.S. men's team. And again, this is not a conversation at this point because we are well on our way to another gold medal. Yes, I said we. I am part of the team because we are American here. And for that fact, there was never going to be a dispute. There was going to be a lot of questions of who was going to be the leading scorer, who was going to get the more minutes, but it was never in doubt of this team being dominant.
And I think a lot of this was the narrative because the NBA is changing so much. It's morphing into this international landscape. So I think a lot of the questions were emanating from that. What's your guys' take on that right now and just how successful this team has really been, really not being challenged?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of that is still true with the NBA getting more globally, and we've seen, like, the women's scores are a lot more lopsided than the men. I think maybe if we did the old NHL All-Star rules and it was USA versus the world, maybe we'd have some closer game. But I think you mentioned the key word, the depth. I mean, just being able to go that deep down and have so many great guys. But most of these other countries have 3 or 4 guys that can stack up and play with them, but they don't have 12. We've seen a lot of the best American players have off nights. I know everyone was after Joel Embiid after the first game in the group stage. Steph Curry's had some off nights, but then there's just, another all-star that can come in off the bench and take them on. So, there's still a gap between USA and everyone else.
Yeah, it's fascinating because Steph Curry, first Olympics, not really playing up to the par that we anticipated from him. Jack, your biggest takeaway so far in the outlook for not only USA, for the rest of the games, but just for them in the future?
Yeah, I mean, for Team USA, like Kay said too, it might be a repercussion of just growing the game, honestly, on the international level. And just that, everybody's starting to catch up to where the USA is right now. Obviously, there's still a gap in place as well, but we might see in the future, that gap continuing to tighten as well, and, games start really getting more competitive. Talking about this tournament a little bit more, I have to agree with you in saying that I think USA still has a really big advantage here, rolling to a gold medal here. Games, again, might be tighter than expected, but, this team still very much has an advantage. I think they found the rhythm a little bit more. Obviously, against Germany and South Sudan in the beginning, there were some, a little bit panic, but, it seems like this team has found a groove a little bit more, and I think, if it might be coming in at the right time, I think this team will walk away with a gold medal, in my opinion.
Yeah, to me, the biggest takeaway, it's really fascinating. The level of play from, these are the older veteran guys on our team. LeBron and Kevin Durant, it's like if you have those 2 guys on your squad, it's almost like those are the top 2 MVPs when it comes to this Paris Games right now. It'll be maybe Franz Wagner and Jokic. Those are like the 4 guys that are really just going off.
Yeah, and they talked about when they were here in Vegas how, there was a sense of passing of the torch a little bit when, this was going to be their team, and then as they move on, the younger guys are going to have to start take over. But I also think they're trying to show, hey, they got a lot left in the tank when the Olympics come to the States, and in 4 years, why wouldn't they want to be a part of it? Why wouldn't they want to come home and do it all over again? That being said, they are sending a message to the rest of the world that what happened last summer in the FIBA, in that tournament, and that wasn't their team. This is what the U.S. does. This is why they're far and superior, better than everybody, because when you look at them being up 10, 12, 15 points, you can tell that they're getting really upset with themselves when they still miss a shot. They're not making it 20, 25 points.
100%. And we also have to mention, I mean, listen to this. I mean, LeBron's averaging close to 15 points a game. Same with KD. KD also broke the record for the most amount of points scored for a U.S. Olympic player in Olympic play, beating Lisa Leslie's record. So, I mean, there's so much great stuff going on there where we're not really missing the Kawhi Leonard stuff as much as we really thought. There's so much depth on this team, so we'll see how they continue to do in this tournament, but obviously France already punching that ticket into the finals. So guys, all right, coming up next, we're going to be sticking with the theme of the men's USA basketball squad. We're going to be talking about surprises and disappointments. No, we're not talking about my middle school basketball teams, Trout. We're going to be talking about the men's team, so don't go anywhere over there in Paris.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. So, Case, I'm going to start with you. Watching these games, what's been the biggest disappointment and surprise thus far from the men's squad when you're watching them?
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise at this point, but the biggest takeaway for me that I just keep thinking is LeBron is just a national treasure. Can we give this guy a break for just 1 second?
No.
I will never understand. Why does everyone hate this guy? No one has ever done what he's done at his age. You had when they were here in Vegas, I think, wasn't Anthony Edwards came out and said, I'm going to be our top scoring option. I'm our #1 guy. And it was almost like you kind of saw the vision. And then all of a sudden, it's just LeBron's team again. I know Durant, the all-time leading scorer, that's huge. But I'm just so impressed with LeBron. And what has the guy done wrong? Like, he looks a little corny sometimes, so we get on him in the Olympics. He's been unbelievable on the court.
I 100% agree with you. He's zero drama. He's a great leader. Why are you getting
Space Jam 2? That's why everyone's upset. That's why everyone's upset.
I mean, listen, Space Jam 2 wasn't as good. But no, I agree with you. I mean, this guy, even, bearing the flag, so many people were upset about that. This guy is a tremendous leader. He's had so much pressure on him since he was like 16 years old. He's never done anything wrong. He really is the leader of this team. He's a point forward who is he's like a point guard at heart, and the way he just motivates the team, keeps everybody happy, keeps it functioning. I don't know. What's up with you? Why is your face look like that?
First of all, I thought he was going a different route. Can we give LeBron a break by not playing? No, I want this guy playing every minute of every second. So I thought that's where you were going. But in terms of biggest surprise, I think it would be, to your point, it would be Ant Edwards. He came out during camp here in Vegas and said, I'm the #1 option. And right now, he is the #1 point per game player for this U.S. team. And what's shocking, and this is part of my surprise and in terms of takeaways, is there's only one player on the U.S. team that's in the top 15 in points per game, and that's Ant Edwards. That goes to the depth on this team. But biggest disappointment, let's just run the gamut, Steve Kerr. I am disappointed in Steve Kerr. How are you giving any player on this team a DNP? How is Jason Tatum not playing one game? Joel Embiid not playing the other game? There's no reason you can't get every guy off the bench in any of these games because none of them were close. There's no reason for any player on the U.S. team to have a DNP. Disappointed in you, Steve.
Listen, the big thing, obviously Tatum early in the games didn't get any minutes. It's puzzling, I guess. The thing is, Kerr, I actually think he's doing a great job because the big thing he's really telling all these players is like, we got to be on the boards and we got to be playing defensive ball.
There is still no reason.
That's the only
Tatum
way.
or Embiid couldn't have gotten 2 minutes at the end of each game.
But it's all matchups and situational.
I'm Team Kerr. I'm with Mike. It's a thankless position.
I'm disappointed.
They actually, I think they didn't cover the spread in either of those 2 games, so they're not living up to expectations. I don't know. It was matchup based. I think Kerr's done a great job, and I loved his quote about LeBron. He said the guy's the top scorer of all time in the NBA, and it's not even what he does best. That's what you're seeing out there.
And listen, I think disappointment-wise for me, Jack, it's got to be Steph. I think Steph coming in, his first Olympics. AD, it was his first Olympics too. He's really been good in terms of being able to be fluid and be in different lines and all that kind of stuff and do what the team needs him to do, rather. But Curry, I mean, this guy does not look like the Steph Curry that we've been accustomed to. And I thought his first Olympics, he'd be having a whole welcome party. What do you think about that?
I mean, like you said, you would think this would be his first Olympics would be something where he'd be going off completely. We would see kind of Caitlin Clark-like play from him, where it was just swish after swish after swish, and we just haven't been seeing that. Granted, there has been a little bit more, forward center play that we saw early on by Team USA on both squads. The guards were really slow to get involved, and you would think maybe Steph would be finding his game a little bit more, but we just really haven't seen it from him, especially the player that we'd be thinking we'd be seeing just a lights out performance. It's been very kind of mediocre, to say the least. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
It's tough to get a groove going when you have so many lines, so many players. It's almost like hockey. I mean, it's really the way he's coaching it, Kerr, it's kind of like you're just thinking lines and different stuff because you have so much depth, and it's not traditional NBA basketball.
First of all, how many minutes? Caitlin Clark finally got mentioned on the basketball show.
I'm so happy
Baby Jack, well done.
I was worried.
Mike is beaming.
I was worried the authorities were going to be on our tails because we haven't gotten to Caitlin Clark. We're going to be doing that because guess what, guys? Coming up next, we're going to be moving on to the ladies. Yeah, sure, they're dominating the competition over there in Paris, but how will the games impact the Aces as they continue their quest for a three-peat? Jack Williams is going to give us the lowdown after these words. I can only imagine the glory of winning a gold medal for your home country. It must be thrilling, but what about a three-peat? That's what faces the Aces and USA players Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, and Asia Wilson. While most of the WNBA is on vacay, our studs from the Aces are grinding for a gold medal, continuing a streak of 59 consecutive Olympic wins. Now, listen, we know they're going to capture the gold. I mean, my question to Jack Williams is really more so, how does this added play during our break in the WNBA season, how does that impact the Aces' chances at completing and competing for a three-peat?
I mean, this is exactly what the team is needed right now. I mean, in the final game before the break against the Chicago Sky, as we know, Becky Hammond does not mix feelings at all. She tells you how it is and stuff like that. She said this team has not had it since the beginning of the year. That mentality of just wanting it has not been there. And seeing the relationships that have been developed here over the Olympics, the success they've had. I mean, even talking about off of Team USA, Megan Gustafson has had a really strong performance with Team Spain. Tiffany Hayes has been fantastic with Azerbaijan's 3-on-3 team. And then you talk about what Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum are all doing with Team USA. I mean, this team is coming back to Las Vegas hungry. These are players that have been involved in a little bit more.
So overall, you think this is good? This is going to be good for them?
I think this is going to be a really good thing for them. I think they've had a little bit of taste of, kind of positive winning and stuff like that. I know Asia Wilson has had to do a lot of work in just keeping this team uplifted through bad stretches of the year. I think coming back into the year, there's going to be a strong, really mentality reset that Becky Hammond has been wanting from this team. And we're going to get a great matchup between Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson, who are teammates right now, right off the bat when they face the New York Liberty.
See, it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's a big output of energy. You guys have been around tons of players in all different types of sports. Tell us, I mean, do you think this wear and tear, is this going to be something that's going to be negative for this team moving forward? Could it hurt them?
I would lean towards, you look at throughout the sports history, and what do we know about teams even that come back from defending a title? They usually are down just a little bit because that's a lot of extra miles on your body, and having so many aces there, I do think that's a factor. I don't disagree with Jack that they might come back a little more motivated. I know Asia Wilson used the term that it kind of felt like a hangover in the first type of the season. I don't remember exactly what you said, but they wanted to get to the Olympics so bad. So there's no doubt in my mind they'll come back more motivated. But you put those extra minutes on, there's a better chance of injury. There's a more soreness. So I am a little bit worried about the toll this gold medal run that they're probably on is going to take on them.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a problem.
It reminds me of VGK, right?
It's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. The wear and tear is a real deal. We saw it early. Talk about that hangover earlier in the season. No Chelsea Gray. Just one part of that core four for the Aces. And the Aces did not look like the two-time defending Aces. Now you put all four of them in Paris. And again, not like these games are tightly contested, grinding games, but it is a grind of a schedule. There's a lot. You're being pushed and pulled in a lot of different directions. Asia Wilson, I don't know if she's had a moment to breathe, let alone this summer, the last 3 years. And she is putting Team USA on her back. She continues to ascend at a level that I don't think we're going to ever see or have ever seen at the WNBA level or women's basketball internationally. And she's not even at her peak. I do think this is a real problem for the Aces when they return because, as you mentioned, it's not just the core four. You have Megan Gustafson and you have Tiffany Hayes that are all there in Paris. And then when you come back, That is more than half of your lineup in terms of meaningful minutes. That all of a sudden, September's rolling around, playoffs are starting, now you're getting everybody's best shot, everybody's coming for the Aces, and we know how the Aces played when teams were giving them their best shot. It was tough, and there was a lot of wins, but there was a lot of losses too, more than we've seen in the past 3 years. I do think this is a problem. That being said, the Aces are as good as any team there is, and the New York Liberty are going to have similar issues as well. But this is going to be something Becky Hammon is really going to have to sort out when they get back, when it comes to practice time, when it comes to their minutes being managed in the final stretch of the regular season.
I mean, listen, 3 Aces are in the starting lineup for, this women's team, which is just incredible. And the fact that Jackie Wilson, Jackie Young is, scoring to the degree that she is after Stewart and Asia is it's pretty incredible stuff. So it's going to be a good thing. My question as we're wrapping this up, though, is from a mentality standpoint, do you think, is there a little less edge after you're bonding with a Breanna Stewart overseas? When you're bonding with some of these players.
It doesn't help it. It doesn't help create that edge, but I think that gets turned real quick when they get back home and then they see there's a three-peat.
We're all human. You're bonding. You're going up against other countries. You're spending times probably hanging out with each other.
And you want to bond. Right, because you need to. Your parents, you're doing commercials here in the States with Sabrina and all that. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a factor, but I think that switch gets flipped.
That's another thing that's more of a risk for the Aces to me, though, because there's no doubt in my mind the Liberty, after they got beat in the finals last year, I think they're still going to have that edge when they play the Aces. The Aces might be a little bit easier to let off the gas and have some of those feelings.
When you're thinking getting a gold medal, getting 3 WNBA titles back to back to back, I mean, that's a lot of, stuff going on. So we'll see what happens. But guys, we're not going home just yet. Yes, coming up after a short break, we got more Sin City Beat for you. And I'm just going to say 2 words. Caitlin Clark. That's next. All right, so as I said earlier, this Women's USA basketball squad is riding an insane streak of 59 consecutive Olympic wins. Now, universally, everyone expected a gold entering the games, and little has changed on that. Yet, I'm curious, Vince, when it comes to this team, what have you felt is just the biggest surprise and disappointment thus far?
Well, to your point earlier, talking about Chef Curry, I'm a little disappointed, not in her, but just the lack of what we've seen of Sabrina Ionescu. She's someone I thought we were going to be seeing a lot of, and the only time we really see her is in garbage time, picking up those minutes at the end of the game when the game has been well decided. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Surprised, and I am a little surprised at how close these games have been in the opening 5 or 6 minutes, because similar to the men, we should be blowing them out dominantly, and we are. But in the beginning, you can see it's a lot of, and I find myself questioning, how much do I chalk that up to, these women are just kind of still trying to figure out rotations and figure out all that. That being said, if my biggest surprise is that they're not blowing them out in the first 5 minutes, I think we're all in good shape.
How much of it in the Ionescu stuff is, similar with Curry? It's kind of like a wide receiver in football who doesn't get, their share early in the game, and then they're kind of just clocked out because their rhythm isn't there. When you're a shooter, you got to shoot the ball and you got to get into a rhythm. How much of it you think is that with the Ionescu stuff?
I personally think she's getting her looks. In the games I've watched, she's gotten her look. She's had the chances to really open up the game a little bit more. But it's just been kind of just brick by brick, in my opinion. And it hasn't just been shooting. Her turnovers have been ridiculous as well too, and just kind of in the mid-court game and stuff like that. It's just been kind of consistency where we haven't been seeing the player that she's been with the Liberty of just someone that can really do everything. And yeah, you could talk about just how she hasn't really gotten into her rhythm a little bit, but it's just, the guard play hasn't been great for Team USA as well, but it's just she hasn't just looked like the Sabrina we know.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so we got about 3 minutes left. I want to make sure we have ample time to talk about Vince Sapienza's favorite person, Caitlin Clark. This is a disappointment, right? Let me just say this and then you guys jump in. Because, don't you believe that if Caitlin Clark was on this squad, the exposure, the interest on this team would be so much it would just be highlighted to such a greater degree. It seems like Simone Biles, the guy who got silver for casually shooting the gun with a hand in his pocket. There's so many other storylines that are happening. If Caitlin Clark was on this team, this would be a major deal. Wouldn't it be a total? Isn't this a disappointment she's not on the squad? Do we feel differently about this now that we're in the game?
As much as I want to disagree with you and go head-to-head for another Caitlin Clark battle, we've had several in the last few months. The way you framed it, I think, is right. I think exposure-wise, I mean, I haven't watched a whole lot of the women, and I feel like it would have been unavoidable if Caitlin Clark was there. I still think from a basketball perspective, I have no problem with her being left off the team. I know she started to figure it out and was looking really good going into the Olympics, but like when they announced the team, she was struggling. I think there was a case to be made. She wasn't one of the best options, but exposure-wise, I mean, there's no doubt there would have been a lot bigger deal with her there.
To me, if I'm a young girl in West Virginia right now and I'm watching the Olympic Games, I want to be Simone Biles. That's who I want to be. If Caitlin Clark was on that roster, it would have been. It is, right?
Plain and simple. I don't care what you think of Caitlin Clark, for her, against her. It is an opportunity missed. You have lightning in a bottle on the biggest stage with the entire world watching, and you don't bring the biggest name to the games. I understand there's a different conversation of whose spot is she taking, and that can be for a different matter. She needed to be here. Whether you give her a DNP like Jay Tatum or Joel Embiid, she needed to be here because you talk about growing the game. What is the one thing every WNBA player talks about post-game when it comes to them winning, signing autographs? They're trying to grow the game. They're trying to get bigger TV deals. They're trying to get bigger salaries. They got the charter flights. I wonder why they got the charter flights. When did that happen again? Oh, yeah, that's right. Caitlin Clark arrived. Things change. When you have the opportunity to grow the game, and it's there. It's an opportunity miss.
And like you said, Case, it's even, you said, I'm liking just what's happening on social media. That's half the fun. How much fun would we be having just seeing Caitlin Clark doing her thing on social media, even if she wasn't getting so much minutes? So, you know, it's a missed opportunity. I think Vince Sapienza said it perfectly. Guys, I want to thank you for being here. The great Jack Williams, Case Kiefer, and Vince Sapienza. Guys, I'm Mike Davis. Thanks so much for joining us on Sin City Beat. We'll see you next week. And listen, I cannot promise we're not going to talk about Caitlin Clark. Even if the whole show's about the Raiders, she might come in somehow. You never know.